Yeah.
So, welcome to the Magnex Series Manufacturing Learning Series. My name is Mike Gardner. I'm in the Manufacturing Industry Solutions Group at Microsoft, based in Toronto. I joined Microsoft after a 20-year career in manufacturing. And the thing that's really exciting for me joining Microsoft is I'm spending a lot of my time thinking about engineering problems and manufacturing problems, and not technology. So I'm a mechanical engineer, like I said, and a PEng, and excited to share what we're doing in manufacturing, and specifically have my colleague Mike Luke here to talk to you about how you master data analytics and visualization in manufacturing. So just before you get started, and I know people are joining, we're recording the session and it's going to be available for on-demand playback. But if you could mute your line, that'd be great. If you want to ask a question, I'd encourage you to use the chat stream that's alongside this. There is a Q&A session at the end of the meeting. And if you want to dial into the meeting, there's a way to show the call info and effectively get the meeting to call you. So if you could do that, that'd be great. But I'll get started because I know your time is really valuable. So I appreciate that you're spending some time with us. So today's agenda, I'm going to quickly go over what we're doing in manufacturing, and then I'm going to pass it over to my colleague where we're going to talk about data and visualization with our technologies and the direction we're going with that. And we're going to finish off with an open Q&A session. Like I said, if you can tee those up in the chat window, but we will, we can unmute it, and maybe I'll just prompt the individuals to ask the question in that case. So to get started, as you know, you probably know Microsoft, but you're probably not as familiar with what we're doing in manufacturing. And I can tell you, manufacturing is one of our key focused industries, and there's a lot of digital hotspots. So, Industry 4.0 is a huge initiative in manufacturing, and certainly what it's doing is making companies rethink how they approach their processes and their systems. From design through production, through service, and ultimately transforming their business and looking at new business models as they discover those using the tools and digital tools that they have at their fingertips. So what we're doing at Microsoft is, we are a big platform company, and like I said, we are building technologies and helping partners build solutions for manufacturing companies like yourselves. And so we're investing heavily in the cloud and IoT and AI. We committed $5 billion just to IoT development. So roughly in the last 4 years. And so we're 2 years into that. And if you look at what's happened with IoT Hub and so forth, it's pretty incredible what we're doing. And there's a reason why, Rockwell Automation or Siemens or ABB or Schneider or Bosch are all using Azure and Azure IoT as the backbone to their industrial technologies as well. Alongside that, obviously artificial intelligence in manufacturing is something that we're enabling. We support all the different artificial intelligence tools and provide services so we can democratize the technology and allow you to apply it to the specific problems that are happening within your engineering processes, within your factory operations or your maintenance programs, or within your supply chain or customer service. So we have over 225 public use cases on manufacturing on our website. But the one I wanted to talk to you about was one that hits close to home within Magna, at Seating. So we have a partner that's using Azure IoT and Power BI for visualization, who's implemented their software in the production lines at the Qualtech plant of Magna Seating. And so the challenge there is that, meeting quality expectations and maintaining high throughput is difficult with complex products. And when you have data separated in all sorts of different silos, including multiple production systems, their MES system, individual PLCs or work cells. You have operators who are providing input. You have job and order data from their enterprise systems or ERP. And then they also have the shift data and production KPI targets. But by implementing this solution and our technologies on the back end, what they're able to do is actually reduce the downtime by 20%. And part of that is really by capturing this data and putting it in one place, they're able to detect patterns across different work cells or across lines or across disciplines and departments. So, they're able to do real-time downtime reporting, but also identify things like operator issues where they're not necessarily up to par, and so they need additional training. Or when there is an unplanned downtime, they can help maintenance and recovery support efforts. And one of the key things that happened is, and if you look at some of the visualizations here where you're seeing the shift reporting, the gray bars indicate the downtime, and then there's a sample Pareto from the real-time production data. What happened is they actually found that one of the big quality problems they had there was actually due to a supplier. And so this supplier wasn't providing the correct dimensional of foam, or the interior fabrics had some problems with them. And so they're able to go back to them and kind of get them to improve their processes and reclaim that. And the bottom line is we're here to make you better and to help you with your job. And an example of that is Qualitalk won both a GM Supplier of the Year award as well as a Magna Seating Plant of the Year. So at Microsoft, our mission is to empower people and organizations to achieve more. And so we're dedicated to making manufacturing a better experience and making sure that our customers are leading the manufacturing industry. So we're helping reimagine factory systems, help deliver new services, help empower the workforce, and ultimately, improve the digital transformation of your processes and factories. The way we do that is certainly we invest a lot in innovation. Our R&D budget's over $15 billion a year. We have over 120,000 employees. We're finding new ways to create business value. AI is helping that with data-driven services. We're combining IT and OT to optimize factories and supply chains. And the most important thing is that we're trying to equip the workforce with the skills and digital tools to succeed. And that's really the reason we're here today is we want to share with you some examples of what we're doing in the data and visualization space and show you what tools you have available to help you. So with that, I'll transition over to Mike Luke, our Principal Data and AI Solution Specialist, who's dedicated to Magna globally. Mike actually has 20 years in the IT industry and over 10 years of expertise in the information management and data and AI space. So with that, Mike, I will turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael. Can you see my slide? Data culture at Magna.
Not quite yet, Mike. You might need to hit share.
Sorry. I thought I was. I did hit share. Sorry. Okay, let's go back.
Good. There we go.
There we go.
And yep, you're good to go, Mike. Just hit full screen. You're ready to rock.
Yep. Okay. Thanks again, Zach and Michael. Appreciate that, and welcome everyone. My name is Mike Luke, as Michael mentioned, and with my partner in crime, Darwish Mangat, who's on the call as well. We're really out visiting and working with as many divisions across Magna as possible, really to increase the data culture and awareness of capabilities that exist that can be leveraged really to optimize operations and get the most out of the information and data that exists throughout Magna. And like I would say, I've been working with Magna for over the last year, and I would say even prior to myself coming onto the team, there has been a significant increase in, the appreciation and access to information, and really, working with various divisions on their ability to leverage their data, to get more out of it, to move away from enterprise data systems and really enabling individual users across Magna to do more with their data, to get the most out of it possible to optimize how they're conducting operations and getting better insights into the processes that exist. Topic today was really around data visualization as a fundamental attribute to really getting to that data. So I just wanted to share something here that I find interesting. Here's a picture of the Great Lakes, topographical map. This just happens to be showing where various ships have sunk over the years. But here's another visualization of that same data. Different dimension gives completely different information, right? A cross section of the Great Lakes showing the various flows from Lake Superior to the Atlantic Ocean. I know when I first saw this, it really gave me a good understanding and appreciation of how geography around the Great Lakes area is really set. So in other words, there are various or a variety of different visualizations that one can apply to data. And it isn't just one type of visualization that may make the most sense for any specific data set. There are vast amounts of different approaches and opportunities that exist to slice and dice data in the most effective way so that you can share information, so that you can talk to your colleagues and peers about information throughout your processes. So obviously, here at Microsoft, we wanted to share some information around Power BI. And Power BI adoption within Magna has grown significantly over the past number of years. Power BI Desktop continues to be voted the #1 desktop visualization and business intelligence tool. We continue to ship actually a brand new, fresh version of Power BI Desktop each and every month, and we have done that for, I think, the past 30 months. So each and every month, there's a brand new version of Power BI Desktop that's available for your use. And we continue to innovate, continue to add new features and capabilities to Power BI Desktop as being the foundational component to starting the journey with data within Magna. And the great thing about Power BI Desktop, it's completely free. No charge. You can download it and get started working with your data right away. So if you have a small data set, you can play with Power BI Desktop with no cost whatsoever. Also, mobile. So Power BI mobile application continues to be ranked #1. It's far and away the #1 tool for mobile analytics and business intelligence. And again, once Power BI dashboards and reports are curated and published in powerbi.com, which we'll talk about, they can be in fact distributed to mobile devices in a very quick and easy to use interface that can be specifically curated for a mobile device, making that sharing of data accessible to anyone in the organization. And this is really, really growing leaps and bounds as far as capabilities and the ability for divisions throughout Magna to interact with the data in near real time. Another very important fact about Power BI is really just the thriving community of folks and individuals that are excited and use Power BI daily, each and every day. And one of the big things that Microsoft essentially does is take input from customers like yourselves to, in fact, better the product over time. So over the past, since we started this program 24 months ago, we have 850,000 community members that have submitted 250,000 user ideas for a total of nearly 20,000 ideas that have been submitted to improve Power BI, and we continue to add those various ideas in response to customer demand, adding new features and function to Power BI. Power BI service, as we'll talk about, is a managed service that exists in the cloud, and we have the ability to rapidly innovate those services and capabilities, and we continue to add these ideas each and every month. And I have a list of just the additional functions that we've added to Power BI, and it's 30, 40 items get added to Power BI service each and every month. So the constant innovation and improvement and listening to the community is of utmost importance. So Power BI, essentially, this is the portfolio at Magna. From left to right, we've got Power BI Desktop, which fundamentally is where users start with authoring data. So accessing data, creating reports and dashboards, and then publishing that to the Power BI service. So this is powerbi.com, which is in fact a cloud-based service for the sharing and collaboration of that data. So as I mentioned, Power BI Desktop is completely free, and you can publish data to powerbi.com, and you can see that data yourself. If you wish to share that data with other users, you do in fact require a Power BI license, which we'll talk about throughout the end of this presentation as well. Finally, for larger scale deployments and being used throughout Magna is Power BI Premium Capacity. And that essentially means dedicated capacity specifically for Magna, a specific environment where users of Power BI can create, share their reports. The workspaces get stored in the dedicated capacity. And then these reports can be shared with anybody throughout Magna, both internally and externally. So for example, if somebody wanted to share a report with a vendor, for example, you could in fact create a report in the dedicated capacity environment and share it out to a vendor at no additional cost for that specific user. So essentially, that is how Magna is leveraging Power BI. Reports are being created in either Power BI Desktop or Power BI Service, and then being published in Power BI Premium Dedicated Capacity. So, as I mentioned, I mean, the data culture at Magna is significantly growing, and really where Power BI, or really what it's becoming the PowerPoint for data. And what I mean by that is, instead of creating a PowerPoint or instead of creating a report before I go into meeting, the idea is just to leverage what's actually in Power BI. So instead of copying, pasting data, let's just use Power BI as the PowerPoint, as the interface to tell the story about the data, to create the relationships between different attributes throughout the division, to share information with my shift leaders, for example, about last night's performance, or to share information with my engineers about defects that may exist on a specific assembly line, or to share information about paint processes that may have failed over the past month. Instead of copying, pasting that data into PowerPoint, for example, let's just use Power BI as that interface and ability to tell the story more effectively. The data is always accurate, it's always being refreshed, and there's no debate as to whether my information is correct or not. Assuming, of course, that we've done all the upfront work as far as data governance and the creation of my reports, etc., which we can also talk about later on. But essentially, using Power BI as a common platform to tell the story about the data is becoming more and more effective, and not having to rely on IT to prepare these reports, and giving users the access and ability to create their own visualizations and dashboards makes it extremely powerful. So this is a representation of really where Power BI initially started. So the blue checkbox, essentially self-service data exploration and Power BI reports. Fundamentally, that's what most individuals think about Power BI and what it does, and really how it started back in 2015 when Power BI as a new entity started. But what's happening, or what has happened and continues to evolve, is just the additional capabilities that are being added to the overall portfolio. What I like to think is really that Power BI is becoming a Swiss Army knife for data at Magna. And that just means I can do more than just create, self-service and data exploration. I can start to, using data flows, I can create very lightweight ETL processes for data on a repeatable basis. I can create data sets that can be used for advanced analytics, for example. I can, serve out paginated reports for enterprise reporting that can be served out on an hourly basis, as an example. So things that traditionally were done in the enterprise can be done through Power BI as well. A big thing that has started over the past 12 to 24 months is really the infusion of AI. And as Michael Gardner mentioned, AI is being infused in all of our capabilities at Microsoft. All of our products and features and functions are starting to include the addition of AI. But in Power BI, we can also leverage capabilities such as Azure Machine Learning Services or cognitive services, for example. Say I'm looking to do vision inspection, for example, for my assembly line or my paint process. I can start to bring in those visuals into Power BI and leverage cognitive services in order to do the image analysis and classification. I can start to use Power BI as that single point of access and control for a number of artificial intelligence type of scenarios. And governance as well is becoming more and more important as organizations look to Power BI to become the trusted source of data. We're adding capabilities like metadata. And really that just means, the ability to report on data. So for example, if I look at a report, when was it last updated? When was it last created? Who authored the report? Who has does that individual have, the sign off necessary to deem that a report, for example? If individual division needs to report, financial information, we can start to use Power BI with the sign off and authority features and functions to ensure that, the proper information is being sent off, that it is in fact being governed in that way. So all of these additional capabilities that I've mentioned are part of the the unified or enterprise BI platform. But a lot of these capabilities continue to evolve as we look to Power BI to become that Swiss Army knife for data and information at Magna. And I'd also like to mention Power BI and Azure, and this is really the path to data replication and visualization, leveraging our cloud capabilities. So in addition to Power BI, we're leveraging the capabilities of the cloud. So for example, at Norplats, we have a similar environment set up where we have data that's being moved to Azure SQL database, and we're using other capabilities that exist in Azure in order to curate the data, just to provide it to Power BI in the most effective way possible to optimize performance. And really to not hinder the on-premise data stores that exist within a division. So our whole premise is really to replicate or archive or copy data from the division's enterprise systems, whether they be the MES systems or the CRM system or an ERP system. We can start to copy or replicate that data into the cloud. We can start to harmonize that data and bring that data together for analytical purposes. Really what we want to do is join various sources of data together in order to create the most insight possible. And as we start to look to connecting up sensors and devices throughout the division floor, like PLCs or sensors on a line or vision, these repeatable patterns, which I'll talk about, become very important. They're easy to understand, and the data exists in a single place. And if we store it down at the bottom, as I indicate here in Azure Data Lake Storage, we can come back, we can archive that information, we can do advanced analytics, we can go back in 36 months, for example, if a vendor has an issue about a specific assembly that have failed, for example. There are all kinds of examples and scenarios that we can provide by providing access to data downstream, but not continuing to add that data to the on-premise environment so that they can run unhindered and continue to operate effectively at the highest performance necessary. Just wanted to share a couple of examples here. So Renault, again, they can create dashboards in Power BI, which gives team members almost free access to data to consume it in any way they want. And I think we have, there are lots of examples very similar to this throughout Magna, which we'll talk about as well. But this is just a testament to the growth and the scale of how Power BI is being used by others in the industry. And the same here at Albany International. Users can ask that those what if questions of our data, just information that was completely impossible to ask before. And, even within exteriors, for example, Graham Burrows is using Power BI reporting to ask some of those what if questions, to look at KPIs across different divisions around cost or supply chain. So this is a very relevant example at Magna as well. And shifting to some examples at Magna, Power BI has really grown significantly across Magna over the past 24 to 36 months. Everywhere from, and I heard some examples over the last couple of days. So shift optimization, for example. So just having the ability to compare outputs of different shifts. Looking at all the third shifts, for example, across the last 3 to 6 months and comparing and contrasting, looking at cost reductions through various KPIs. So whether that be, the paint process, for example, and color changes is obviously a big KPI indicator, or really indicator of cost and optimizations that many exteriors plants are interested in. How to, essentially optimizing how best to change colors. A lot of those costs and metrics are being captured and harnessed in Power BI today. Billing and metrics for cloud services. So Global IT leverages Power BI for cost and comparisons at the various cloud providers that Magna uses globally. And all of that data is being compared and contrasted in Power BI. Defect examination and root cause analysis. I've heard examples of defects being tracked in Power BI, and those conversations being had with the process and process engineers on how to improve defects or look for opportunities to enhance understanding or figuring out, determining who was a supplier for a specific assembly line run, and how can I go back and most effectively trace that specific defect, and how do I avoid it in the future. Another example, fork truck utilization and cost optimization. So there's work that's going on across exteriors to compare and contrast the fork truck costs across all of the different divisions, and whether they're leased, whether they're purchased, number of fork truck operators, and really starting to get an understanding into the opportunities for optimization. And some of these discussions that can start from a fork truck optimization or utilization exercise. Once that data is actually in Power BI and I'm able to visualize it and I'm able to look at it in different ways and I'm able to slice and dice data, it leads to all kinds of other opportunities and insights. And those light bulbs start to go off when you can share this information with a team of specialists around a room who understand the layout of the division, understand how fork trucks, for example, are being leveraged and utilized, and what opportunities might exist to optimize an environment and drive efficiencies throughout the division. Market research. This is just another example where Power BI is being used with some mapping technology, for example, just to globally map all of the various exteriors divisions and their proximity to the tier ones, and to really get a visual representation using mapping capability to more effectively understand where new plants could be built or competitors that may exist in the marketplace, and really having that ability to look holistically at information and look visually at information versus, the old and traditional way of looking at it through, on an Excel sheet and, essentially trying to do that visualization in your mind. Essentially, really what Power BI is doing, it's laying out those visualizations once I have the data together, and it's allowing us to then think beyond just trying to understand the data. And I love this quote here. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry, Mike. I just wanted to jump in here because, from our experience working across Magna, and certainly my experience working across multiple manufacturing, what you're seeing examples of, obviously there's a specific business problem, but the data is coming from all sorts of different places, right? And, if you look at the fork truck utilization and optimization, that's a combination of an IoT project where you're getting the data from the sensors within the warehouses and the tooling, and applying visualizations to that to decide how to optimize those better and look at, do we have the right number or capacity and so forth. Defect examination and root cause, a lot of examples we're seeing is similarly where you have visual systems or measurement systems that are capturing data and that's being visualized. So, it's a kind of a combination of different process applications, but ultimately the decisions are being supported by the visualizations from the data.
Absolutely, Michael. I couldn't agree more. It's really the ability to see that data, especially as we start to compare and contrast, across a variety of data. That's really where the magic starts to happen once we start to bring these, bring this information together. And I love this quote from Derek at Norplast. Through using Power BI, we've been able to rapidly visualize our manufacturing data to gain insights that are driving improvements throughout our plant. And I think Derek would say that visualizing that manufacturing data today is so much easier than it would have been, in the past. And that's really the goal here, is to enable individuals throughout the various divisions to gain insights, to respond quickly to requirements. If something happened last night in the production floor and I have the ability to then drill into it, leveraging visualization capability within Power BI, it just makes it so much easier to get to the root cause of the problem. So we just really love the growth and the innovation that Magna is doing with Power BI. So which essentially leads me to another initiative that we started at Magna called Project Insights. And it essentially capitalizes on a number of things that we've talked about today. And that's really the ability to extract data from the on-premise enterprise systems and devices across Magna to drive insights while improving performance. And improving performance essentially means if I have data that exists on my enterprise system in the division and I have 10 years of history, for example, well, why not carve out 8 years of history and move it to the cloud? We can do analytics, we can do reporting, we can do other things with that data, but let's improve the performance of the on-premise environment. And we've done that for a number of divisions who have, either run out of space or just feel that their on-premise environments are slow and underperforming. So that's a great way to do that. And that's really how it started. And then we started to realize, well, this is a great repeatable pattern that we can then use that data that's available in the cloud and apply different techniques, whether it be analysis services, whether it be advanced analytics, whether it be cognitive services, et cetera, various capabilities that exist within the cloud. Applying that to the data can lead to overall insights and essentially better performance. So, we're looking at a number of different opportunities, but essentially it's a repeatable pattern where we're replicating data that exists anywhere within a division. So whether it be, as I mentioned earlier, the MES system, the ERP system, any type of data that exists on the division floor, we can replicate it to the cloud. We can create reports from that data. We can mash it up. We can bring it together in Power BI and start to curate that data more effectively and start to leverage that data. And then really where we're going now is starting to also look at obviously IoT, as Michael mentioned, as we start to instrument, various divisions with technology and sensors, leveraging our IoT framework and capability, we can essentially leverage the same pattern, copy that data, or not copy it, move that data into the cloud, and again, combine it with data that may exist in our MES system in order to create even better reporting and even deeper insights as we go forward. So lots of examples and use cases of this, and we're learning a lot as we travel across Magna deploying this similar pattern, and we like to call it Project Insights, and it's really about getting insights out of the division floor and the various devices and systems that exist within exteriors.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in and add to that. I mean, this is a great project because, one of the key challenges in manufacturing is you don't want to put your production system at risk. And what the team has come up with, and certainly how the software is architected, is that we're copying data, we're streaming it, but we're not affecting the basic enterprise system. So traditionally, if you're asking big questions of big data, there's a risk that you can overload the production systems and cause performance problems. But we're not doing that here. So we're asking very complex questions, but you're not risking any of the operations in the factory the way it's set up. So this is a great project, and I think that's why we've seen so much traction at various Magna divisions.
That's right. Thank you, Michael. And just building on, the artificial intelligence and AI capabilities in Power BI, really, as I mentioned earlier, Power BI can become or is becoming the Swiss Army knife for data, and it really it can enable a number of different personas. Everything from end users here on the right. We're adding AI visualizations and capabilities that you can more easily, choose through guided approaches, the right visualization for the data. Natural language, so being able to just ask questions within Power BI. There's a feature and function called Q&A, and you can just start to say, what is my, biggest supplier, for example? What is my, how many defects do I have today? Asking questions in English, just making that much easier to essentially get at the information that exists in Power BI. Key phrase extraction, so using things like word clouds, for example. Sentiment analysis, we could start to leverage text, for example. So this could be, for example, shift reports could be ingested into Power BI, and we can start to extract sentiment, were things going off track, or what are some of the key words and phrases that can be extracted out of notes, out of general text, in order to improve performance. And then as we start to go left here, we start to get into more advanced analytic capabilities, where we can start to create predictions and create machine learning models, and just the ability that Power BI has enabled over the past number of years, just adding different capabilities such as Python and R. To really empower the data scientists to leverage and bring in those models that they're creating into Power BI, so that they can in fact be integrated into reports, and connecting to other services, as I mentioned earlier, in the cloud, such as Azure Machine Learning Services that do automated machine learning and do cognitive services. Just some of these advanced features and functions that are driving the analytics space are being brought into Power BI. So essentially, Power BI is becoming the catch-all for a number of different innovations across Microsoft. And Power BI, the teams at Power BI are doing a good job grabbing these different innovations and bringing them into Power BI. And because Power BI is, fairly cost-effective, it's a great way to get at these capabilities. Right in the desktop tool, for no charge, you start to see and you're able to leverage some of these capabilities, which is absolutely fantastic. Finally, I just wanted to share some of the different resources that we have around powerbi.com. If you want to get started, you can go to powerbi.com, and there's all kinds of resources that are available there. Everything from sample data. There are a number of different data sets and Power BI dashboards that can be brought into your own desktop or into your own powerbi.com environment that you can sign up for. To start that journey, to start to play with some of the visualizations, to start to understand how you can transform data or get rid of columns, etc., through some of the the new transformations that are available in Power BI. All of that is available there. Power BI documentation. There's a number of docs here that will provide this this presentation, and you can click through and follow the different guided learnings. There's so many videos that are available out. If you just Google Power BI Power BI in general, there are so many individuals out there that are creating YouTube videos that are very, very thorough and extensive, that take users exactly through the process of taking a simple Excel file and starting to build a report from that very simple Excel file, or joining multiple Excels together just to get started and showing some of those visualizations. And all of this content is free. I mean, one of the great things is that the user community is so passionate. It's just incredible just to see the information that's available in the public domain for learning and education. And I've also added recent AI capabilities in Power BI, which is a video. It's an hour long video that just talks about just really what's come out as far as innovation in Power BI over the past few months. Dashboard in a Day. I know a number of users throughout Exteriors have attended the Dashboard in a Day sessions. These are sessions that are put on by our business partner community. They bring everybody in for a day. We sit down, you start with Power BI in the morning, you start basically at zero, and by the end of the day, you're creating your own dashboards, you're creating your own reports, and it's a great way to get started. And there are a number of users throughout Exteriors that I think can attest that they were very valuable sessions. And then, the next step is to continue on your growth in learning Power BI from there and really get started. And really, as a team, that's what we're here to do. We're here to help educate, to enable, to connect you with the various resources that are available within Magna. Here on the right, you can access Power BI via Matrix 42. You can search for SRV 05188, or Power BI will get you to a powerbi.com subscription. So this is the ability to share and collaborate dashboards. And again, this is a monthly charge. Looks like it's $4.68 for a user subscription to powerbi.com, and you can collaborate and share your reports throughout Magna as an example. So thank you for your attention. We'd now like to open up the lines for some Q&A. So Michael, there are two ways you can unmute your line. You can ask a question, or if you'd rather just type it into the chat window, Michael will be monitoring the chats for any questions you may have.
Yeah, this is our very first session, so bear with us. But maybe I'll just kick it off, Mike. So